Hi guys, welcome to Tuesday, May 5th. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. Don't know why I'm saying that again, since I said that yesterday for Monday's video. Sorry, kind of off. But I do hope that you are celebrating Cinco de Mayo. If you celebrate it, I am going to be celebrating it. I know that during this quarantine time, celebrations are going to look a little bit differently, but I'm still hoping that if you celebrate it, you have a good time with your family. Alright, so let's just get into the PowerPoint for Chapter 9, but before that, don't forget that the journal entry is due Monday. So that's our next journal entry 6 if I am we're on week 6. So journal entry 6, relational communication, that's due Monday. So you guys have plenty of time to follow the instructions for it and complete it. Don't forget that to add reference to chapter 9 when you are writing these journal entries. So let's break down chapter 9. Sorry if I sound really scratchy. Allergies. Alright, so chapter 9 was communication and relational dynamics. So factors that influence our choice of relational partners. There's appearance. I wonder see if they break this down a little more. They don't. Okay, so there's appearance, similarity, complementarity, and reciprocal attraction. So the first one, appearance. That's our first go-to thing when we're finding friends and especially romantic partners. We are attracted to people, and not just attracted romantically, but attracted, just visually, to people who we find attractive, who look nice to us. But thankfully, once we get into past that first initial stage of appearance, people become more attractive to us when we get to know them, especially if we really like them, if they're kind, and or if we just relate to them. And then similarity. That goes into the fact that we like to create relationships with people who are similar to us, especially friends. You go with friends who share your interests because you want someone to hang out with who has the same interests as you, so you can have something to talk about and do together. A lot of my friends and I, we like Disney, so we watch a lot of Disney movies together. But we also, relate to other things. We all like to paint, and I don't know, we've always kind of connected on that level. So we have those similarities that make our friendship continue to grow, and also influenced us hanging out together initially. And then complementarity. That goes into the fact that while we do want relationships with people who are similar and have similarities to us, we also want a couple of differences too, because those differences are what make relationships interesting, especially romantic relationships. You don't want to be dating yourself, pretty much, because it gets boring. So you want some differences, but you want those differences to complement your personality. So if you're a really dominant kind of personality, a lot of times you'll be attracted to someone who is more passive, and those complement each other. A lot of times relationships between two dominant people don't really work out that well. Friendships maybe, but romantic relationships, those can cause issues in the future if they're two really dominant figures. Not always, but a lot of times you can see that. And then reciprocal attraction. That attraction, like, I like this person more because they like me. Because it's kind of an ego boost when someone likes you. And with that kind of ego boost, you are like, oh, this person really likes me, so I kind of like them because they make me feel good about myself. However, there's a negative side to that too, because sometimes someone who really likes you, you're like, ugh, stay away from me. And that goes back to the fact that they might not have the other 3 components that make you attracted to them as a friend or romantically. So why we form relationships. Factors that influence our choice in relational partners continued. Okay, so competence is the next one. And competence is pretty much we are attracted to people, friends, and romantic. So when I say attracted, I mean both. So I stop having to clarify that. We're attracted to people who are talented, who have talents, in hopes that that kind of talent will rub off on us. On the other side, though, we don't want to form relationships with people who are really overly competent, because we don't want them to outshine us. We don't want to look bad in comparison to them. And then disclosure. We form relationships with people who share personal information about themselves, because it makes us feel good when someone opens up to you. You want to be friends with them a lot of times because you are seen as someone of importance to them, and if they find you so important that they share personal information with you, then you kind of open up to them and form relationships that way. And then proximity. There's that whole proximity, oh gosh, I can't think of the saying, but it means that the closer you guys are and the more time you hang out with each other, the more likely you are to create friendships with them or some sort of relationship with them. So if you see this a lot in the workplace, you create friends, and sometimes they're just work friends and you don't really hang out with them outside of work, but you still are creating those relationships with them because you're around them so often. Same with school. You're around the same group of people 5 days a week, when we're not in quarantine, and so you grow relationships with the people in your school. You're not, creating friendships really with people who are in different schools. So you guys probably don't have a lot of friends at West High School or Southwest. Your friend group is probably pretty closed in to East. And then rewards. We form relationships with people who we feel we get something from, even if it's just like an emotional value. So it's kind of the give and take idea. So we expect that when we put something into a relationship, we're receiving something back of equal or more value. So if we're putting in a lot of time with them and we are shoulder to cry for them, we expect that at the time that we have emotional breakdowns and need someone to rant to or have an emotional, cry on someone's shoulder, that they'll be there for us in equal amounts. So if we don't get those rewards back, if we don't get that, get back as much as we give, a lot of times we don't keep those relationships with people because we want those relationships to be pretty equal. Okay, so then there's the models of relational dynamics. The first one is the developmental perspective, which has I think 10, if I'm correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, yeah, they have 10 steps. So this developmental perspective is really interesting, and it's actually shown in this figure that also is a breakdown of the stages of relational development. But the steps are the most important part, I think. So first, it's the initiating, where you're getting to know these people. You're kind of doing the small talk thing. But mostly you're just making initial contact. You're initiating. You're making the first contact. So I want to open my notes so I make sure that I'm covering everything that I want to cover with you guys for this chapter. Okay. So yeah, you're showing that you're interested, you're making contact, you show you are a person worth getting to know. Because if you want to get to know them, you want them to get to know you too. Because if you want to be friends with them, you want them to want to be friends with you. And then experimenting. This is actually when real small talk gets started, and none of us really like small talk, but that it's a really good thing to use when you're deciding whether you're interested in pursuing a relationship further with someone. And it also talks about the uncertainty reduction, where it's the process of getting to know others by gaining more info about them. And then the next step is intensifying. So you've gone through those two, you've pretty much certain you want relationships, want them. So it's the interpersonal relationship. That relationship begins to develop, you increase spending time together, you're increasing support of them, you're doing favors, etc., etc. And then there's integrating. So you take on the identity of a social unit. This can be considered in a romantic relationship to become Facebook official with them. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that term. But also, you're developing shared identities. And this can be for friendships too, because while there's not a friendship official or a Facebook official for platonic relationships like friendships, when you friend them on Facebook and you're talking and you're posting pictures with each other, that's kind of integrating. You're becoming a unit. So, for instance, when I say I'm going to hang out with my friends, I say, hey, I'm going to go up. And just specifically, my 3 friends from high school that I still hang out with on a regular basis, I call them the girls. So when I tell my family, hey, I'm going to go hang out with the girls, they know who exactly I'm talking about. I don't even have to say their names. That is kind of creating our social unit. So, and then it's bonding. It's a symbolic public gesture to show the world that their relationships exist. Culmination of a relationship is developed. So, that is kind of that engagement stage and marriage stage for romantic relationships. And for friendships, there's sometimes actually in other cultures, like it describes in the textbook about Germany, where you could actually have a friendship ceremony. And I think you can even do it in New York too. You could probably do it at any. I think there's like this friendship contract or kind of like a friendship marriage thing that you can actually do. Most people don't see it as necessary, but there are cultures that find it really important when you want to, like Germany, called the Duzen, to just, saying, hey, we are awesome friends, and we're going to stay that way forever. So yeah, it's the culmination. It's the say, hey, we are now officially, we are committed to each other, officially, documented, we're official. And that can also considered moving in together too, because moving in together is a really big step as well. And then there's step 6, which is differentiating. So reorientation that has developed shifts and more me messages begin to occur. So once a relationship is secure and committed, the people in the relationship don't want to always be a we. Even if they're married, they want to have their own autonomy, meaning they want to have individual personalities still. So that can be considered my friends versus his friends sort of thing, or my friends versus their friends. And this can be seen in friendships too. Those 3 friends from high school that I talked about, we all 4 of us have different friend groups that we created outside of high school, in college and our jobs. So we have other friend groups that we hang out with that have nothing to do with our other friends, and we don't really bring them all together. And we know about each other, so it turns us from a we group to a me group. So we're together, we're friends still, but we're also individuals who have other groups of friends and other interests. And okay, so this video is about to end, so I don't want to get cut off, so stay tuned for part 2.